So now having some interesting connecting, like the way they communicate too, the telepathy, the experience of downloads, all this is just very fascinating, and we have similar crossovers. Now, I read this, or maybe I might have maybe didn't absorb it the first time I read Suzy's book, but I didn't connect the way that Suzy did that this was a book, and I just found that really it was one of those things I picked up the second time I read the book. And my whole thing was that I have a mystic book. It's kind of this it's just one of the many elements of the part of my story that I was, this thing was uploaded into me, and then it sat there until it came out in me in 2019, and it's very detailed. This very detailed mystic book, and then only to learn that Suzy herself had a book, kind of this same concepts, a very large amount of information. Pages that aren't accessible at one point, but are able to be quote unquote read at another point. And that is all just very interesting and fascinating. Um, yeah. So, do you want to add anything, Suzy?
No, it was just a book about my own personal life and what I would be doing and tasks I would take on, etc. I guess they didn't want to scare the hell out of me as a young person. And so times would come where something would trigger something to emerge from this book. So it was like a chapter would open up and I would understand what was happening at that time or be able to better react to it or whatever. So it was all that book that was put into my head was all about my own life.
Yeah, very neat. That's the alien books there. And I actually just refer to Preston Denning did a video on his YouTube channel. It's linked into my YouTube channel because he actually brought up the Mystic Book, the Mystic Book I got from the aliens, and he did an amazing research driven. About all the types of contactees who experience books, and the aliens have books. It's this weird, detail because they're a telepathic species. So why are they having books? And I'll go into that a little bit later as we talk about this is a telepathic species that has books, and that's actually very fascinating. I experienced several different books on my contact events, and Preston actually points out that there are several contact events where humans see books or interact with a book on an alien spacecraft, though they're not quite exactly like ours. They may contain information, and then telepathically the human can read it, and so it's very weird, not the same as kind of a script that we will use, though I see script in mine, and the script can be going, a human could go into the script in a three-dimensional kind of way that is new to us. And I've now learned that other people have had those types of experiences as well too on craft. So yeah, very fascinating, this whole book element to the story. Um, so Suzy has some, yeah, she mentioned previously some humorous telepathy from the aliens, and I also have that as well too. The again, not an expected aspect of the story that the aliens themselves might give simple symbols that are comical through telepathy, and I don't actually quite have too many when it comes to the Elder in my contact events, and it seems likely because we're trying to get things done. There's always a purpose for every physical contact event I'm interacting with them with, but when it came to the telepathy I have presently, that kind of very challenging, hard to believe element of my story, that they're still able to interact with me, I can ask questions, and then sometimes the responses are comedy, and it's very funny to me. So an example of that is when it was all kind of coming out, and I was accepting that this was a reality, that this alien was able to listen to me and watch me, that I could also communicate back with her. I'm actually saying to her, I'm saying like, so what do you do with this information? Like, so you're okay, you're watching my life. Like, what do you do? What do you do with it? And when she responds, it's not always on the exact moment. It will be interjected in a hypnagogic state. I might be doing something, driving or washing dishes, and sometimes it happens through washing dishes when your mind is kind of occupied doing one thing, and then all of a sudden a thought gets interjected. And so at some point, I can feel it's a response to the question I had actually. And at some point, she interjects an image, and the image is her and the leader sitting on a couch eating popcorn, watching TV, and what's on the TV is me and my life. So for them, it was entertainment, and it's like just comical. She's like eating popcorn, and it's got this very humanized element to it that only we would be familiar with. But and I can feel the humor in her actually. She's like, yeah, this is our entertainment, and then with the element of popcorn, the very humanized element of popcorn to it, very funny and of course, it lightens the actual experience for me, which took me some time to understand. And it's another element that humans probably don't understand is that we are interesting to them. Our ways that we maybe segment the emotions kind of maybe fascinate them, and so they really enjoy watching us. Maybe like we would enjoy animals and how we watch, animals behave, and we kind of find that fascinating. Right? Both me and Suzy experience group telepathy. She's also a little bit more detailed than mine, where she's dealing with auditoriums and the aliens communicate in group. And then simultaneously will segment very fascinating details of how complex they deal with telepathy, that they can give different individuals in an auditorium different information, or they're segmenting the telepathy as they spread it out. Suzy, what do you call it? I think it's like a spray, a telepathic spray. Is that what you
Yes,
say?
telepathic spray. I gave
Yeah.
the different modes of telepathy some nicknames when I was younger. So yeah, my book goes into quite a lot of detail about the different modes of telepathy that they can use and what they can actually do. It's quite amazing. We think that telepathy is just going to go one to one between a couple of people, but they're able to, as Jeff said, cut people out, speak to only one part of the group, and they're able to send you a massive amount of information, all of you at one time, and everyone might receive something different. And there's another chapter in my book called Using the Brain Like a USB, Children of the Future, Children of the Mind, where I'm watching my son being trained in telepathy, and he's using exactly this, the child is using exactly this technique, has been taught that in far in advance of anything that I've done. So here's this progression again of them training humans in different generations so that we're progressing slowly towards a point where we are more able to meet them, if I can put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fascinating. Um, So, so this is an interesting part too. They don't have names. So both me and Suzy kind of have these experiences where the Greys, the entities actually, doesn't matter really what entity, they don't use names. They don't call themselves a specific name, and they typically have a kind of a signature, a telepathic impression about that constitutes the identity of that individual. And it's very significant in my own contact events. Even when I'm kind of panicking and I'm actually asking for the elder, I'm actually saying, "Where's the mother? Where's the mother? Where's the mother?" And I'm not calling her the elder because that's not what I called her at the time. But it was just this impression, and the entity knew who I was talking about. And there's a very funny element to this. When I had gone public already, and I had a contact event, my eighth contact event, where I actually asked, "What is your name?" And the entity says, "We don't have names like you have names." It's very fascinating, but I'd already gone public with that. And then I saw Suzy before I ever approached Suzy. I saw her on, I think it was Grant Cameron's channel, and kind of in the warm up of the presentation that she was about to do. It's online, and so there was maybe several minutes where Suzy was able to casually interact with the people in the audience. And one of the guys says, "Hey Suzy, have you ever heard of, I don't remember the name. It was like Eldridge, the gray alien or something. Eldridge, do you ever heard of Eldridge, the gray alien?" And Suzy was, she actually literally says, "All the gray aliens I know don't use names." And I was like, oh my God. It's one of those moments of kind of connecting cooperation, how specific, because I was actually said that directly. That was said to me directly. And so Suzy kind of corroborated that. And it was a very fascinating element to, and this interaction with the gray aliens, that they don't have names, that they actually, and when we pick up names from them, we're picking up something that they might be giving to us because we are used to that, and that's how they know we interact with each other. So they might be giving a name, but I don't have entities that have any names in any of these contact events, and they typically constitute in a type of label or an identity, like the leader or the elder or the twin. So yeah, very fascinating.